Hi, it's Steve and Joe from Freshagenda. And Steve, this week we're having a look at the latest GDT event. Bit of an overview of our outlook that went out to subscribers early this week.
A really short one.
Yeah. And, of course, Chart of the Week.
Which everyone waits for.
Let's get into it.
So GDT number 285, the first of the new Fonterra or New Zealand season. Fourth decline in a row. This is not a big decline, but it was pretty mixed. Like we've been having a bit of a laugh recently about how dull some of these events are in the detail, but this one had a bit in it. I'd say more positive than was apparent. My take.
So we had a bit more product on offer for this auction. And as you said there, powders are actually quite steady, and there's a little bit in the detail with that, isn't there?
Yeah. But fats were weakest, and particularly butter. And that's where all the colour is there. Some pretty big. I mean, this caused an adjustment on the left-hand axis of this chart here to cater for the fact
to get the butter one in.
But it took the speed bump out because butter had a big bubble in the middle of the forward curve the last two events, and that's now flattened. Demand was generally a little mixed.
Yeah.
Little better in whole milk powder and AMF, but not so in skim and butter.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, New Zealand butter is cheaper than European butter.
Yeah, so that butter and cheddar's not so representative because there's not much on offer, but those two have sort of come back to the pack, haven't they? And that New Zealand premium that's there for skim milk powder, still there, but
pretty
narrowed
robust.
a little bit. Yeah. Yep. So.
So in the detail, the whole milk powder average went down. We had rises in the short term for regular product, but a horror event for instant, which dropped nearly $500 down on regular.
Yeah.
While UHT went up. So go figure. There's some interesting stuff going on there in product form.
Yeah, so not many reconstitutors in the market at the moment, but that curve looks very different from the previous two events for whole milk powder, doesn't it?
It's not a big dip. It's $100.
Yeah.
It loses $100 over 5 contracts. It's flattish. I could make that look flatter.
Flattish.
Skim milk powder was similar, really. When a little bit stronger earlier, weaker later, the Americans picked up the most this time. They lifted nearly $100, while the Europeans were a little softer. So as you said, the premium was a little truncated.
Yeah,
because of that.
There. You look at the shape of those curves, and it's just a little bit more optimism about New Zealand spring for whatever reason. It's very wet in South Island, we know. I hope everyone's okay down there, but. Yeah, interesting. It
is interesting. We'll talk about fundamentals a bit later.
We will.
Because, And then fats. So butter, we've been talking this down for a while. We think the fundamentals, the overall demand in the developing world is weak. It's been weak at much lower prices than this.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see that play out. Losing $1,000 in 4 events.
Yeah.
Butter. Despite China still buying most of what's on offer, but the other regions are obviously not coming forward. But for a rare time, it's like over 30 events, so over a year since AMF has been above butter in fat equivalent terms. Despite AMF had a lot more product on offer this time, it was almost 50% more was bought. So
yeah,
that was fairly solid. I mean, when you look at the support for AMF across the board, across regions at these values, it didn't move much.
Yeah.
Good prices. I think the same for whole milk powder. There were other regions buying in, so that's.
It's not terrible, is it?
No, not at all. Reasons to be cheerful. And speaking of fundamentals, we set out our outlook. Here's a very quick summary of what the fundamentals suggest. You can see the directional arrows there where we're talking, the fundamentals of skim milk powder are good. Very tight European market is probably the dominant feature there. Tight skim solids balance sheet. Butter, an affordability problem, but the US will lift and turn around with cheese. They will both tighten considerably, and we think they're both coming back up towards world parity. Whole milk powder we think is an affordability issue. Easing fat values will bring that intrinsic value
undermine
back.
that. Yep.
Yeah. And whey powder, the growth in cheese output and the disparity between protein values between casein and whey proteins is working, and that'll bring the US back a bit. So that's our high level. Of course, there is a full document that explains all that in our monthly package. If you're interested, to get in touch with us. Here's some things we're watching, which probably Joe always sets the cell on the saw. I'm sure the viewers are aware of this. That this is a contest to keep this presentation tight, and so I'm allowed one page to talk about the things we're watching.
Thank you later.
Sorry. Supply side, it's all about feed really. The bullish factors. There was a bit of a drop in feed prices recently. They've gone surging back up, so we've still got a fairly tight situation in terms of feed availability.
Sure.
On the right-hand side of supply, more farm payments in the US are being talked about.
Yeah.
There's another stockpile building in skim in India. We have to dig hard here because there aren't many bearish factors. But New Zealand at $8 a kilo.
It's a pretty positive signal, isn't it?
Yeah, they've never had a price that strong at the start of the season. And if they've got milk to find, they'll find it as they did late season in the season that's just ended. So
sure,
watch that. Demand side, vaccine rollouts are pretty positive.
Yes.
The thing we think is going to be amazing to watch and try and work out is this big channel restocking and shift in the US as food service reopens and product moves from retail to out of home, and how that affects the balance sheet in cheese.
Yeah, and as we've said before, much bigger impact in the US we would expect, just because of the dominance of food service for cheese demand over there. Yep. But also, it's patchy everywhere, but in Europe it's certainly patchy, isn't it?
And the demand side, the developing regions, the macro impacts are going to roll on for some time, impacted by great changes in the world economy, and that's going to take developing regions a lot longer to climb out of that. See some easing feed prices in China.
Yeah.
Does that send a signal that the whey demand might follow or weaken a little bit and the pace slow down? We haven't seen that slowdown in whey demand yet. That may be coming. And those port problems linger.
They're not going away, are they?
So that's a high level of the things that are interesting out there.
Yeah, what we're watching.
Chart of the week, what have you got?
Chart of the week, well, guess to pick up on what's happening in Europe, and we have seen a little bit of faster growth in milk, but it's still pretty tight in Europe in terms of milk supply. That's what's keeping skim milk powder and butter manufacture to manageable levels. But across the board, looking at those internal prices or those quotes, it's looking fairly steady and well balanced in Europe at the moment as we sort of move through this peak of production period.
It is. It's stability that's keeping the world tight.
Yeah.
I think in that respect. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, look, that's it from us. We'll be back again soon. Thanks for watching. See you then.